People think weddings are about love. They're not. They're about witnesses. I paid for my sister's wedding. That detail matters, not because I regret it, because it explains why she thought she could do what she did. The venue sat on the top floor of a downtown hotel. Glass walls, city skyline. The kind of place where people feel important for a few hours. I arrived early, always do. When you own things, you learn to arrive before problems. My penthouse sat 3 blocks away. Top floor. Deed. In my name. Paid in full years ago. No loans, no partners. Just mine. Ownership isn't about money. It's about clarity. My sister, Emily, floated through the venue like she owned it. White dress, perfect smile, confidence that comes from believing consequences are optional. She hugged me, too tight, too performative. "You're the best brother," she said. That was the first lie of the night. Guests filled the room. Champagne poured. Phones came out. Everyone smiling for moments they'd forget by morning. I noticed something odd during rehearsal. A clipboard. Documents. Passed quietly between her and the event coordinator. I didn't interrupt. Interrupting early ruins timing. Betrayal works best when it thinks it's ahead. The ceremony went smoothly. Vows, applause, tears that looked sincere enough. Then came the reception. Music loud enough to blur judgment. Alcohol generous enough to erase caution. That's when the MC took the microphone. "Before dinner," he announced, "the bride has a special announcement." Emily looked directly at me, smiled, and nodded at the DJ. I felt it then, not panic, recognition. You don't feel betrayal when it begins. You feel it when it assumes you're silent. She took the mic, cleared her throat, and said the sentence she thought would lock everything in. "I'm so grateful," she began, "that my brother has decided to gift us his penthouse as a wedding present." The room exploded. Gasps, applause, phones raised instantly. People turned to me, smiling, clapping, expecting gratitude. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't correct her, because that moment, that was when I knew exactly how I would end this. Applause is a strange thing. Once it starts, it doesn't ask questions. The room was on its feet, clapping, cheering, people shouting things like, "That's amazing," and "Best brother ever." My sister handed the mic back like she'd just closed a deal, which in her mind she had. She hugged her new husband. He looked stunned, not suspicious, grateful. That told me something important. He didn't know. The cleanest betrayals always leave one person innocent. I stayed seated, hands folded, watching the moment expand. The MC laughed nervously. "Wow," he said, "that's incredibly generous." People kept looking at me, waiting for confirmation, a nod, a smile, anything. I gave them nothing. Someone near the front leaned over and whispered, "You're a legend." I almost smiled. Almost. Because here's the thing Emily didn't understand yet. Applause locks people into memory, and memories don't erase cleanly. I reached into my jacket and touched the envelope. Still there. Heavy. I'd brought it as a backup. Never expected to need it. Inside were copies, not originals. I'm not reckless. The deed, the trust addendum, the clause she thought no one had read. People skim documents when they believe relationships protect them. The DJ started the music again, trying to move the night forward, but Emily wasn't done. She took the mic back. That was her second mistake. "And I just want to say," she continued, "this gift means everything to us. It's proof that family always shows up." That line landed hard, because she believed it. She believed family meant silence. I stood up, slowly, deliberately. The applause softened. People noticed movement before meaning. I walked toward the stage, every step measured. The MC looked confused. then relieved, like this was the expected part. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said quickly, "a few words from the bride's brother." The crowd cheered again. Louder this time. Emily turned toward me. Her smile widened. She leaned in, whispered. "Thank you," she said. "I knew you wouldn't embarrass me." I met her eyes and said quietly, "I won't." She misunderstood that completely. I took the microphone, felt its weight, tested the sound once. The room went quiet. Not because I asked, because anticipation does that. Silence is attention before it becomes judgment. I looked out at the guests, friends, family, people who believed they were watching generosity. Then I looked at Emily, calm. "I'm happy tonight," I said into the mic. Truly. She relaxed. I felt it. "And I'm glad everyone's celebrating," I continued. "But before we eat," I reached into my jacket, pulled out the envelope, held it up. "I need to correct something." The room shifted, not panic, confusion. Emily's smile froze, just slightly. "What you heard a moment ago," I said, "was not a gift." The silence deepened. And it definitely wasn't agreed to. Someone laughed nervously. Thought it was a joke. Emily shook her head. Tiny, almost invisible. The moment before exposure is always quiet. I placed the envelope on the podium, tapped it once. "This," I said, "is the deed to my penthouse." A few gasps. Phones rose higher. "And this," I added, "is the clause that proves it was never hers to announce." Emily reached for the mic. I stepped half a pace back. Just enough. "No," I said calmly. "You've had yours." Her face went pale, because now the lie had witnesses. I didn't rush. Rushing sounds defensive. I opened the envelope slowly. Paper makes a sound when it knows it matters. "I'm not here to ruin a wedding," I said into the mic. "I'm here to stop a theft." That word landed differently, not dramatic, specific. I unfolded the document, held it so the front row could see the letterhead. Official, stamped, real. "This property," I continued, "was placed into a trust 5 years ago." Emily shook her head again, this time harder. "That trust," I said, "has one beneficiary." I paused, not for effect, for accuracy. "Me." The groom turned toward her, confused, concerned. I read the clause out loud, slowly, clearly. "No transfer, gift, or assignment of this property may be made without the written consent of the sole trustee." I looked up. "I'm the trustee." The room didn't explode. It fractured. Whispers moved faster than sound. Phones tilted. The MC backed away from the podium like it might catch fire. Emily reached for my arm. I stepped away. "Don't," I said, not loudly. "Enough." She finally spoke. Into the mic, voice tight. "You're doing this here?" she asked. "On my wedding day?" I nodded once. "You chose the stage," I replied. "I chose the timing." The groom took a step back. Just one. But it said everything. "You told me it was already done," he said to her. She didn't answer. Silence is a confession when someone else asks the question. I turned back to the crowd. "For clarity," I said, "no property is changing hands tonight." A few nervous laughs. No one joined them. "And for the record," I added, "any attempt to file paperwork in my name without consent is fraud." That word again. Fraud. Emily's knees buckled slightly. She grabbed the podium. I wasn't finished. "There's one more thing," I said. I reached into the envelope again, pulled out another page. "This," I said, "is an email sent last week." Her breath caught. I heard it through the mic. "In it," I continued, Emily asks a title company how quickly ownership can be transferred if family approval is assumed. The groom's face went red, then pale. You were going to do this without telling me? He asked. She tried. Tears, hands shaking. I was just trying to secure our future, she said. I shook my head. You were trying to secure mine, I corrected. Love asks. Theft assumes. The wedding planner stepped forward, whispered urgently to the MC. The music didn't start. No one moved, because something more important than a ceremony was happening. Emily finally looked at me the way she should have from the beginning, not as a brother, as an obstacle. You humiliated me, she said. I leaned closer to the mic. No, I said calmly. I stopped you. The groom removed his ring, not dramatically, just deliberately. I need air, he said, and walked away. Emily screamed my name. I didn't respond, because the truth had already done its job, and the penthouse, it never moved. But her reputation, that collapsed right there on the dance floor. Teterbero. Weddings usually fall apart quietly. This one didn't. It stalled. No one told the DJ to play music. No one told the caterers to serve food. Everyone just stood there, pretending they were still guests and not witnesses. Emily stayed frozen at the podium. Dress too white, face too pale. The groom didn't come back. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Someone from his side of the family approached her, spoke softly, urgently. She shook her head, then nodded, then started crying in a way that wasn't planned. Real panic doesn't perform, it leaks. The wedding planner finally stepped in, tapped the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, voice strained, we're going to take a short break. A break from what? Reality? People began moving. Not dancing, circling, whispering, checking phones. I stepped away from the stage. No rush, no victory lap. My phone buzzed almost immediately. A message from my attorney. Did you just stop a fraudulent transfer? I replied, with one word. Yes. His response came fast. Good. Do not engage further. Emily's mother cornered me near the bar, eyes sharp, voice low. How could you do this to your sister? She hissed. I met her stare, unmoved. She did it to herself, I said. I just refused to participate. She opened her mouth, closed it, walked away. Families protect behavior until consequences show up. The groom returned alone, no jacket, tie gone, face hard. He walked straight to Emily, didn't hug her, didn't touch her. Tell me the truth, he said. All of it. She tried again. Justifications, fear, love mixed with ambition. He listened, then shook his head. You were going to steal from your own brother, he said. What do you think you'd do to me? She collapsed into sobs. He turned to the planner. This isn't happening, he said. Just like that. The word spread fast. The wedding was over. People gathered coats, avoided eye contact. Some nodded at me, some glared. I didn't respond to any of it, because I wasn't the center of the story anymore. Emily was escorted to a private room, not for comfort, for containment. Security followed. That's when you know things are real. An hour later, a man in a suit approached me. From the hotel. Professional. Careful. Sir, he said, we've been informed there may be legal concerns involving property documentation. I nodded. I'd like to formally request, he continued, that no further claims be made on site tonight. They won't be, I said. Ever. He nodded, relieved. Outside, the city looked the same. Lights on, traffic moving. Life unaffected. That's the strange thing about exposure. It feels catastrophic inside a room, but invisible to the rest of the world. except for one person. Emily. Because embarrassment fades, but records don't. The next morning, the photos started disappearing. That's always the first sign. Wedding pictures deleted, tags removed, captions edited into nothing. It was like the night tried to erase itself. But witnesses don't forget. Emily didn't call me. Not immediately. She knew better. Her lawyer did. He spoke carefully, professionally. There was an attempted filing, he said. Unsuccessful. I wasn't surprised. She believed family consent would be implied, he added. That sentence told me everything. Assumption is theft's quiet cousin. I forwarded everything to my attorney. Emails, recordings, the title company inquiry. He didn't ask questions. He said one thing. She's exposed herself. By the end of the week, formal letters arrived. Cease and desist. Notice of intent. Documentation requests. Emily was no longer planning a honeymoon. She was meeting with counsel. Family group chats split overnight. One side asked how I could do this. The other side stopped talking. Silence is a side. People just don't admit it. My mother called. Not angry, defeated. She didn't mean it like that, she said. I exhaled slowly. She meant it enough to sign emails, I replied. That ended the conversation. Emily finally messaged me 2 days later. You didn't have to destroy my life. I read it once. Didn't reply. Because here's the thing she still didn't understand. I didn't destroy anything. I declined participation. You're not responsible for the consequences of someone else's plan. The legal process moved forward quietly. No drama, no courtroom, just filings. Emily agreed to a settlement. Acknowledgement of ownership, permanent withdrawal of claims, costs covered. She signed. That signature mattered more than the wedding vows. Her marriage? It didn't survive the month. Trust doesn't recover from intent. At a family dinner weeks later, my name wasn't mentioned. Neither was hers. That's how families handle shame. They pretend the fracture never happened. But fractures don't disappear. They just stop bleeding. I stayed in my penthouse. Same view, same silence. Only difference? The air felt lighter. Because ownership isn't just about property, it's about boundaries. People still ask me if I regret doing it publicly, if I couldn't have handled it privately. They misunderstand the situation. Private is where she tried to steal from me. Public is where I stopped her. Exposure isn't revenge, it's containment. If I'd stayed silent, the story would have moved forward without resistance. Paperwork would have been filed. Assumptions would have hardened into facts. My silence would have been interpreted as consent. That's how people lose things they already own. The microphone wasn't power. It was a boundary. After everything settled, I stood alone in the penthouse one night, city lights below, glass walls reflecting a version of me that looked settled. Not victorious. Settled. I thought about Emily, not with anger, with understanding. She didn't believe I'd stop her, because family had trained her to believe limits didn't apply. Entitlement survives until it meets resistance. I didn't gain anything that night. I kept what was already mine. That matters. Some family relationships don't survive truth. That doesn't mean truth was wrong. It means the relationship depended on silence. The wedding became a story people whispered about, then stopped mentioning. Stories fade, records don't. My penthouse never moved. My name stayed on the deed. My boundaries stayed intact. And if there's one lesson in all of this, it's simple. Don't wait for permission to protect what's yours. My sister tried to steal my penthouse at her wedding. I exposed her on the mic. not to humiliate her, but to make sure the truth had witnesses.